All right, guys, today we're talking about top bass lures for springtime. While we have way more than 5, we're gonna cover the top 5 in today's video, starting with number 1, Lipless Crankbait. This is one of my go-tos year-round. If you follow the channel long enough, you know this is one of the last things we throw during the fall and winter to imitate that dying bait fish profile, and usually one of the first things we throw during the spring. We get into that pre-spawn action, which means power fishing for the most part, which this is great for because it has the ability to make a ton of noise and draw that reaction bite. When it comes to color selection, I keep it pretty simple. I'm usually throwing either a red or a green or ghost craw. The red's a great contrast color in murkier waters, as we've talked about in previous videos. Because of the anatomy of the cones in the bass eye, they do see reds and green more than any other colors in the spectrum. And if I'm on more of a clear water fishery, that's where I will throw my greens, browns, my natural ghost craws. Either way, great bait for getting out, covering a lot of water quickly, and locating spring bass. Number 2 for me is going to be a Squarebill. This is a very versatile bait for covering a lot of water as well, locating those early spring bass, and they're available in different depth ranges. With the average depth of bodies of water across the United States being around 10.5 feet, usually that 4 to 6 foot depth range is going to be great, put you in that strike zone to have access to both the bass that have not quite moved up from the deeper water yet and those that have. And if you have some super shallow conditions like we have today, area that's pretty problematic as far as getting hung up on rock beds and other structure, you can get in those 0 to 2 foot depth range, more of a subsurface bait, and it will give you access to those flats, and also great at emulating those bait fish, which happen to be perch in this particular body of water that they have pushed back into this corner. And as you can see, it does a great job at both. So if you're not throwing Squarebill, I recommend you guys pick up a couple, at least some in that 0 to 2 foot range for shallow water conditions, and some in that 4 to 6. Next up at number 3 is going to be a Texas rig craw. This is something I can fish year round, and it's got a number of different ways I can fish it. Right here, what we're doing now that we've already located those bass grouped up around that structure, caught a couple on the Squarebill, is using the craw to kind of slow things down and pick this area apart. And as you can see right here, because he hit it pretty much right on the drop, that tells me that they are up, switched on, ready for the pre-spawn, and looking to feed up. And when it comes to our kick and craw in particular that we sell over at Kick and Bass Custom Baits, it's a super versatile craw compared to most available on the market right now, because not only is it great in those finesse situations, but you can fish it on the move and do just as well. Now, we designed this with a symmetrical body, giving it equal buoyancy on both sides, also giving it no real right or wrong top or bottom, which is great in situations where you have a dual or split color and want to display one more than the other. Also, in the event that you do start to see some wear on your craw after a couple of catches, you can go ahead and flip that over in most cases and get more usage out of it, saving you money in the long run. And regardless of how you choose to fish it, whether you're fishing it subsurface, swimming it mid-column, or slow rolling along the bottom, it's one of those clutch baits that always tends to come through in those situations where nothing else is really getting it done. I can always tie on a kick and craw, and 9 times out of 10, it's going to produce for me. Next up, number 4 is either going to be an underspin or a spinnerbait with a Swimbait trailer on it. And the reason I like these is because you not only have the added flash and vibration of the blades in murkier water conditions, which will help draw those fish in from farther out, but also has a weedless presence in the water. Number 5 for me is going to be swim baits. I love swim bait fishing, whether I'm open water and I'm chucking huge glide baits or segmented swim baits like we are right here, or I want a weedless presence. Something like a Savage Gear structure gill or a headhunter is great around areas of heavy cover, and I find that with most of the bodies of water in Colorado having a higher population of bluegill for them to forage on than they do shad or anything else of that nature. That's why we have such a high success rate throwing bluegill profiles. For that reason alone, I really like to throw this downsized Mike Bucca bullgill. It's a more affordable version of their $60 bull shad, which is super popular in the big bass game. But being that Colorado doesn't really have a whole lot of bass over the 10-pound range, this is a more realistic bait profile for fishing around here, and also isn't going to sting as much if you happen to lose one. And that's going to do it for today's video, guys. Hopefully you found these tips helpful. If you enjoyed the video, do me a favor, hit that like button down below. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, because that's the best way to show your support, and I love to hear from you guys. So let me know in the comments down below what your top 5 springtime bass lures are. And until next time, I'm D with Kick and Bass TV.
Subscribe!